At least one person has been killed and another severely injured in flooding caused by torrential rain in Senegal's capital, Dakar, on Friday. It's the second time in less than a month heavy downpours have turned roads into muddy rivers and submerged underpasses. Some drivers described frightening scenes.
There
were a lot of traffic jams. We were completely blocked, he says. We weren't moving forward, and with the rain there was a lot of water coming in, and little by little the water was rising, so we were all blocked. Me, when I saw that the car began to fill with water, I took the decision to get out of the car and left. My car was flooded, 100%, 100%. Flooding is common in Dakar at this time of year, but on Friday 126 millimeters of rain fell in just 6 hours. But sandy roads are ill-equipped to deal with so much water, and some are blaming the exceptional rainfall on global warming. Nowadays the intensity of the rain is huge, he says. It's not like the rains of the past. We know about climate change, it's not complicated. And we're next to the ocean, so the flow was not the usual intensity of the rain. It was a lot of rain in a small amount of time. That's why there is this damage. It was all full of water. There were similar scenes less than 3 weeks ago when 84 millimeters of rain fell in just 2 hours. Anything above 50 millimeters is considered extreme. The front-runners in Kenya's presidential election have been making their final push for votes ahead of polling day on August the 9th. Holding a rally at the 30,000-seat Nyayo National Stadium in the capital Nairobi, Deputy President William Ruto, a rag-to-riches businessman, branded himself as the antithesis of the status quo and the great hope for poor people in Kenya. He was once expected to be President Uhuru Kenyatta's successor, but lost ground when Kenyatta, who cannot run again, aligned himself with long-time rival Odinga in 2018. Also in Nairobi, but at the 60,000-seat Kasarani Stadium, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga was also wooing voters. Kenyatta's endorsement of Odinga has given him access to the ruling Jubilee Party's powerful election machine. He's contesting the election for the 5th time, including the 2007 poll, which was followed by widespread violence in which over 1,000 people died. Odinga is the son of independent Kenya's first vice president, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. Once seen as an anti-establishment candidate, his support from the ruling party has made him the establishment candidate in this election. Celebrations such as Uganda's Gay Pride event in 2015 are set to become a rarity in the country after authorities suspended the work of a high-profile LGBTQ rights group, calling it an illegal entity. Sexual Minorities Uganda has been the nation's most prominent support group for LGBTQ people since 2004, but its leader, Frank Mugisha, said on Saturday the authorities had told him to suspend activities due to a lack of documentation. He says the case against the group stems from the name itself, which the Registrar of Companies considers to be unsuitable. A judge agreed, and the group is awaiting the judgment of a higher court. Same-sex sexual activity is prohibited in Uganda under a colonial penal code from 1950, which criminalizes acts which are against the order of nature. The law carries a maximum penalty of life imprisonment and applies to both men and women. In 2009, President Yoweri Museveni's government drafted legislation which proposed the death penalty for what it called aggravated acts of homosexuality. After international condemnation, the bill was amended, but LGBTQ communities in Uganda are regularly subjected to discrimination and violence. Members of a Malian civil society group demanded on Friday that the UN mission in Mali, MINUSMA, leaves the country by September the 22nd. At the Culture Palace in Bamako, supporters of the anti-French Yerawala Debout sur le Rempart pledged to take to the streets if the troops didn't go. The terrorist in Mali is France, he says, and when we chased France away, what remained was the MINUSMA, which is run by the French. So everything that happens in Mali now goes through MINUSMA. That's why the only order of the day is the departure of MINUSMA, so that we can find peace, because we have lost our sovereignty. Many of the protesters wore blue bonnets to mock the UN peacekeepers in a move they called Operation Blue Bonnet against blue helmets. The head of the movement said he'd already asked the UN to withdraw from Mali by September. As you know, we have to get together and go out massively on the 22nd of September 2022 to liberate the country. This will be called the final assault. It will be done with very, very determined people who will go out everywhere in Mali to demand the MINUSMA to leave. Tensions between Mali and the UN have been running high in recent months after Mali refused to authorize a UN mission deployed to investigate alleged ongoing human rights violations in the country. Mali's government has said it'll integrate 26,000 ex-fighters from a northern rebellion group into its army as part of a deal with the former independence movement. The agreement was struck in a meeting on Friday between the two parties and suggests a new energy in the stalled reconciliation deal signed several years ago. The meeting was chaired by Prime Minister Chogokokala Maiga. Also attending the event were the special representative of the UN Secretary-General and head of the peacekeeping mission in Mali, El Ghassim Wane, and other ambassadors. A peace agreement between the government and non-extremist armed independence groups in the north was signed in 2015, but has stalled in the past 7 years. Mali has been struggling to contain an extremist insurgency for a decade, and rebels were eventually forced from power in the north with the help of a French-led military operation. But some rebel groups have reformed in the desert, staging attacks on the country's army and UN peacekeepers.